Well, I'm out in my garden weeding for the first time this year. I got some stuff to put over it because I'm not going to weed like I did the last however many years. I got some of that 3 foot wide, that stuff you put over plants, you cut holes in it, and they weed block. Anyway, I'm out there trimming these weeds, pulling weeds out of my oregano and my thyme and my all around my lemon balm and my stuff. There's weeds around where I just put new seed in. And I'm like, you know, I was listening to this video and this guy's ranting about dealing with being new in the industry or not new in the industry, maybe a couple years or whatever. He's not old enough, and he's listening to complaints of people that's been in the industry for years. A lot of people get into a job. They're there because they might not want to be that in that job. And maybe it's just a past. Maybe it's just like one of those jobs, where it's like, well, I'm going to get this job for a resume or whatever for you need the money, whatever. But there's people there that have, realized that, this is their life doing this job, whatever it is, whatever employment, career, or whatever it is you might be in, but you're not there for, you think that you're better than, you're just doing it for the money. And so you complain about people that are complaining that people are coming in there, new, not doing it, they want everything done their way, and but they're not going to be there that long. But they're not saying they're not going to be there long. But anyway, what I'm saying is I was out there weeding. See, that's how your thought goes. You just get all complexed up, all this different multi-billion thoughts come flying in to make this true and this false, and then you're just sitting there and thoughts are being traded, and you're the New York Stock Exchange of thoughts. So anyway, I'm out there in my garden weeding, and I realize, families are like a garden, and whoever planted the seeds is whose garden it is. So your parents plant the seeds, and while you're living in their garden, you're growing in their garden, is basically, you're either trying to supply them with good stuff, which will help the family sustain and make a better family, or you're trying to grow like a weed. And if you're trying to grow like a weed, then you're probably in the thought that man's home is his castle, and you think, well, a castle has a whole bunch of people living in it, not necessarily related, and there's this, that, and the other, and there might be minstrels coming in, there might be jokers coming in, there might be people that shouldn't be in the castle coming into the castle, or in the castle gates. There's people that live within the castle gates back in the Middle Ages and all that stuff, when they'd run inside for protection. Well, when your parents planted the seeds and you started growing, that doesn't mean that you can go out and gather weed seeds, bring them into your parents' garden, and let them grow so your parents will protect these weeds that they don't want in their garden. Not that they don't like, not that they don't mind weeds growing other places, where weeds should grow, like in rocky crevices or whatever, where it'll live and die, and create a soil structure, and then it'll break down the mountain so there's no mountain, and then you take all that soil and you can plant a garden in that mountain of weed destroyed mountain. Whether you like mountains, I like mountains. They create a weather structure which it creates snow and rain. Without them, you probably have plains. You probably have a desertification. You just have a drought, and so you need mountains. And the problem is overpopulation means that you need to break down mountains to create more garden area or more planting area for food. Well, you don't. You need to quit breeding because you're a plant that was planted. Whether your parents knew that you was a weed or a plant, ask them what they need. What kind of plant did you need me to be? Uh, is a fruit of yours going to be worthy of being, the seeds of yours going to be worthy of being planted in that garden, or are they just going to be weeds? They're just going to grow up, and it's going to cause more stress and toil to keep the garden organized. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It's like, people go out and they'll just gather, they get in society, and society takes a pure mind and will flush it like a sewer. They'll just put you as a part of the pipe in a sewer. In fact, putting a pipe up your mouth probably means that you are you are a link to that sewage. So next, after you put that pipe or cigarette or whatever up to your mouth, or whatever it is, you're putting all that stuff in you that isn't part of the garden. Are you trying to just turn into a sewer hole and trying to say, well, this house is not a castle, it's going to be a sewer hole? Because I'm going to start bringing sewage into this house. Is that where you want to live? Is a sewer? Is a waste management? Maybe that's where you need? Maybe there's so many all these drugs and sex addicts are just basically in need of being waste management, but there's not enough waste management, so everybody's getting fat to create more waste, so that more waste management jobs will be created. Well, we've seen with this virus that the population is destroying the planet with all the water. Everybody's in quarantine. The water's clearing up. The ozone hole. You believe that? That freaking thing disappeared over the Arctic. I mean, it's like, what? You mean a couple months of people not driving around polluting the planet? No industry rolling out smoke and everything into the rivers and air is actually cleaned up in a month and a half. Can you believe that? So, that's what people do. So now, is it better to say your house is a castle, or is it more like a garden? If you get, even if you don't have seeds there, you got the seeds are just restored from your lineage. Maybe your lineage passed down. Maybe there's not people in your lineage that are any good. I don't know. There's not everybody. The problem is, nobody talks in families. I mean, if they do, it's probably bullcrap religious, and religion is whatever. I'd make a thing up for that, but I'm not going to get into religion right now. But religion or government or all this other stuff instead of, how to better your life, because I'm figuring, it's not, I know kids think, well, they're here, they made me, and so my life should be bettered by them, or my life is bettered by them. You realize it. You're not a freaking diamond gem. You're not this fruit tree that bears all fruit and is perfect in every way and feeds the family and this, that, and the other. And even if you do, maybe the fruit that you bear isn't what they want. Maybe you bear I don't know, monk fruit. I don't even know what monk fruit is. I think there's a fruit called monk fruit, but I've never had it. I'd rather have like jackfruit, But I mean, I'm sure if you have enough jackfruit, you're gonna get sick of it after a while. But anyway, you can give to the family, and if they take and they take and they take and they take, it's a one-way street planted in the middle of a two-way street, and a one-way street is like a train station that's got that rotating, so it can go both ways on a one-way street within a two-way street, within a alleyway or whatever. So your parents could take too much, the kids can want too much. Kids could say, well, I've seen on videos, I've seen in news, I've seen in books where parents should just lay down their lives for their kids. And the parents would say, well, I've seen where kids should do what their parents say. So see how it is? It's both ways. Maybe, parents should guide their kids. If they know their kids, they should be truthful with them, saying, hey, we had sex, you were born, and here you are, and we're going to try to help you in your life. But if your life is just bringing sewage into the home, why, what's the point? If all you are is thinking, well, I got these parents, they don't know anything about me, yeah, and you get on the internet and there's people there that you relate to, but maybe you only relate to because of the sewage you let in, You think, well, I'm not part of this group, so I'm gonna find out, and then you find out, wow, I'm part of sewage. And somewhere along the line, maybe your parents were drug addicts, sex addicts, or they just had sex without knowledge, and it brought you in, and you found out that, wow, you're part of sewage, and now you're just bringing sewage in because, well, this is me, and then you just fill their house with sewage because, well, you should have thought about the, well, and then when your life turns to shite because all you are is sewage, and you think, wow, whose fault is this? And you try to blame your parents, and you forgot that you're bringing the sewage in. So, yeah, I know parents are sewage, kids are sewage, everybody's, but you can you don't want to use human sewage. I mean, they use human sewage for stuff like growing, it's disgusting. I don't even want to think about human sewage. It's too much of it. And, well, just think about that, man, woman, whatever, that it's a garden, you know, and while you're in that garden, do you want to be thought of? You want to grow up as a weed and constantly have to be pulled aside and ripped out of the ground you're trying to grow into this ground. You're trying to grow, say, they got peas or tomatoes or something. You're trying to grow around this tomato plant, this beautiful tomato plant that's going to give these delicious tomatoes, and you're just some freaking weed trying to take some of the nutrition from this tomato plant or cross pollinate with this tomato plant. And it wouldn't taste as good. The tomato wouldn't taste as good with your cross pollination. So don't cross pollinate with a tomato plant. Don't cross pollinate with pepper or cucumber or anything. It's just like while you're in this garden, you know, you got time to study. It's a great time now instead of waiting till you get out in the world and you say, "Wow, I'm really stupid. I should have read. I should have read more as a." When I lived with my parents, I was living there for basically free, until of course, there's some parents that, boy, you got to go out on the fishing boat with me. You got to help me catch fish. There's few and far between of that. I mean, there's enough people that, you know, uh, you're one of ours, so you got to help mow. Hey, all this stuff. While you're mowing, you can learn about your own yard. Read up on mowing lawns, read up on soil, fertilizer, all that stuff, how it pollutes, how it helps, how you can make grass grow better, and then, you're a productive part. And then when you get older and have your own home, you know how to grow your own yard. You already have a jump start, uh, or whatever it is. If they don't teach you, you got to learn. I don't know if you get on the internet and learn a skill, but that basically everybody needs a skill. Of course, some people think, well, I got to go to 12 years of college to learn to be a doctor. Well, a lot of those doctors were construction or, some other skill trade before they were doctors. I mean, a lot of them, not all of them, some of them, but they always had that skill, which, if you're learning to work with your hands, that's a good skill instead of somebody who just reads about everything and then can know it and talk it and then just work their way up the ladder and then be the head of everybody, but not be one of the skilled people that actually does any of the work. They just, end up being what is it? We're administration. Okay, so you worked your way up and now you're administration, but you're not using the skills that you developed because you didn't develop any. You just read. So, develop skills. Worthwhile skills, life skills, not something that you don't want to learn how to, this street value cred crap, unless you're a drug dealer or a prostitute, that stuff ain't really going to help you. What's really going to help you is learning one of the skilled trades, uh, there's anything, like brick, carpentry, uh, whatever. I don't know. Females would be. I don't know if secretary would be considered a skill. I mean, if you knew how to type, that of course a lot of people know how to thumb type on their phone. But can you do 120 words a minute with no mistakes? Without shortening everything. I mean, do you know shorthand? I mean, I don't see any shorthand being used. I know my mom did shorthand back when I was a kid. I asked her how to do it. She did some, but she hadn't done it for a while. There's actually a thing called shorthand. I don't even know if they teach that anymore. But I mean, I don't know what a female horticulture maybe, like gardening, you know. Uh, hmm. I mean, they can learn carpentry. There's women in carpentry. There's women in plumbing. There's women in everything. But it's a skill, and you can fall back. And if you run into trouble, it's something you can always fall back on, no matter where on the planet you go. And not prostitution, not drug dealing. I mean, there's people that think, well, yeah, I know street. I got street cred for I can deal drugs anywhere. I can prostitute anywhere. That's stupid, ain't it? Don't you think that's kind of stupid? Uh, it's not really a skill I would claim. Of course, people say, "Oh, they make millions of dollars dealing." I don't care. I don't care how much money you're worth. Build a house now. Instead of having just go out and drop the drugs, build a house. Maybe there's drug dealers that used to be in carpentry. One or two. I don't know. I doubt it. Or maybe there is. I don't know. Or maybe there's prostitutes that know how to plumb. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Well, I'm sick of laying pipe. I'll do it another way where I get paid. So I don't know. I'm just saying, while you got the time, you're living at home until you leave. Uh, make your life fruitful instead of just weeding up somebody's garden. Instead of making somebody always toil over you. Make your life pleasant. If you make your life pleasant instead of being always toiled over. I mean, if people are always toiled over, you're going to notice that they're shotted away from whatever. But people that make others, you don't have to make other people's lives great. But if you make your life not, I don't mean grow up and just it's all about you, it's narcissistic, but you make your life fruitful. In other words, if somebody was to meet you, would help them by meeting you. It is like, oh, something, or you're doing something that pleases them, like your weed. Not necessarily. Just this is just a simple example of I don't know where to put it, where you'd be, 1,000 examples of how you can make your life better by reading instead of being a problem, instead of going out at night, sneaking out, getting into trouble, causing money problems in a family that doesn't have that much money, or bringing you're getting in trouble because and your parents are trying to be respectful or respectable or respectful. Maybe they aren't. Maybe you realize, hey, they're trying to be respectful. I know what that's like. You can see that the people are trying to be, oh, I'm a respectable person, but you realize they really aren't. But they're trying to be, and you're like, well, I can prove that. It doesn't matter. Quit. You got to quit worrying about what other people should be. All you're doing with that is drawing attention to those people, and then you see it doesn't. A lot of people get attention whether they're good, bad. You can see that in prison. People get out of prison and they've been in prison, so they get more respect. They gain that street cred and all that stuff. But I mean, is it if you want to go that way, that sounds kind of stupid because I mean. I don't know any gangsters or anything like that, but I think I'd rather know how to build a house, or and all the aspects. You got the electric, you get all that stuff, or work on automotive, or something like that, something that or machinery, or planting trees, or for what do they call it, landscaping and stuff. If you know how to landscape, there's women in landscaping. Because a lot of people, they think, well, let's plant, they just take the ideas, let's plant around a house. And if you live in a house, you realize that all these plants, after a while, it's hard for you to paint the house. Unless it's a brick house, even if it's a brick house, the plants grow up around the house, they get up around the foundation. It's like, well, this is stupid. Why do we plant these plants right next to the house? So, it's for security. Plants around a house is not good. And a lot of stuff because, it's for foundation, security, all this other stuff. But people still do it. It's because it's handed down in educational. They say this is how we do it. Well, develop your own strategy and make people realize that, hey, it's not that great. What you should do is instead of plants that don't do anything, put out plants that actually grow food. You know, I mean, if you drive around, you notice that plants in yards. Wow, none of that stuff grows anything. There's no blueberry plants. I read where there's I got some oregano out back, and they say that oregano and like basil, stuff like that that grows, or another thing I'm hard time growing is rosemary. And they say I had a big rosemary bush when I lived in Louisiana. She that thing was like 4 foot tall and maybe 6 foot wide. And you go in the backyard and you smelled rosemary. It was excellent. I've grown it once here. It's hard to grow, but I'm gonna get it, so I'm gonna bring it inside and take it out, bring it in, take it, every summer and winter. But they use that as hedge in places, where you can use it and it smells good instead of stuff that you can't use. It's poisonous. Shoot, I had some stuff that was planted here before I moved here, and like 2 winters ago, the snow melted and there was a dead baby rabbit and a bunch of chewed up leaves of stuff that looked like big blades of grass, but this baby rabbit must have chewed it. Whether it died of eating this plant or whatever it was, I don't know. Or it died from exposure, just too cold. I'm guessing it died from eating whatever plant it was. But I mean, plant stuff that's edible. I know you think, well, if everything comes to eat it, then I'm just feeding everything else. Yeah. And so you're also helping nature, aren't you? See, I got a little field that I try to plant stuff and make it so deer and stuff that pass through, all these animals that this place was built back in I think the year I was born is when this place I'm living in was built. And so I'm trying to make it for anything that's displaced here, it won't feel as displaced. I'll be part of nature instead of a force against nature. I don't want to grow into nature and have everything grow up around my house and look like some sort of, hobbit painting where everything's a freaking tree. But I'm saying, you know, instead of being as a weed in a garden, unless it's like, a noxious weed. I mean, there's weeds that I don't know, there's weeds you can eat. But, is that what you're saying, that, you're telling your parents to, eat weeds instead of what they planted? They're like, "Oh, we want this," and, say, well, get a pot, and whatever you're trying to grow yourself as, grow, I wouldn't say grow marijuana in your house, because that'd be kind of stupid. In fact, that's a waste of money as far as I'm. But there's people going to do it, and I don't want to pay taxes to have people locked up for doing it, because I think it's less destructive than alcohol. And alcohol is only around because of the sanitizing properties, and that's the reason we have alcohol, is because it sanitizes, and that's the reason liquor stores are open during this virus thing, is because it's the alcohol content. So anyway, make your house a garden, I'm guessing is what I'm saying. I don't mean grow it up, or have stuff growing up inside. Of course, I got stuff in here growing. All right, so that probably won't be listened to.